actually adopted the dark. I was born in it.
Welcome to Between the Studs. I am with a couple of studs right here. We have Steven and what's your name again, sir?
Ed.
Ed, that's right. Of course, it's Ed and Steven.
Yep.
You might know these guys, right? They've been around not enough, in my opinion, on our podcasts. They are here because they are both self-appointed gearheads. We've learned that about Ed. If you saw our earlier podcast, our car podcast that we did, Ed spoke about his relationship with cars, his love of cars. I spoke about my little bit of knowledge and what I grew up with, but we haven't heard Steven. So I want to know, where did that start, your love of cars and your experience with them?
Well, funny story, it's kind of like everyone my age, anyone who's in like their mid-20s who's into cars, it's from the movie Cars. It's from Pixar's Cars.
Really?
That was so
I would not have
iconic.
guessed
We
that.
didn't, people who were too young to watch like the Fast and Furious franchise watched Cars, and that was actually I love the first one. The next two or three, I don't even know how many there are now, aren't as good, but the first one is really classic. And then from watching that, I'm like, you know what, cars are pretty cool. So I started getting into them, and when I get into a hobby, I just like soak it up a lot. So that's kind of where it started. Honestly, the movie Cars is really what did it.
Did you ever go to any car shows?
I've been to a few, but at the time it was like I was just so busy with everything else. I was building Lego like crazy and stuff like that. I didn't really have a cool car until only a few years ago.
He said, I can see him now at the car show. Where are the eyeballs? Where are the eyeballs?
How come we're not talking?
Because they're not talking.
Oh my word.
Ka-chow! Ka-chow!
No. I've been to a couple car shows, but
Now, you told me a very interesting story. You said when you worked at Publix that
helped.
on Sundays, Sunday afternoons,
It was always Sunday.
all the guys in Noonan with cool cars would show up on the same day.
Pretty
to
much.
get like a half gallon of milk because that's all that would fit
Exactly.
in their
That
trunk.
happens so often. It wasn't like orchestrated or anything. There wasn't like a car meet. But it would just happen. I saw an Audi R8, I saw McLarens, I saw Ferraris, I saw a bunch of Jaguars, bunch of Porsches, a lot of Porsches, Corvettes everywhere. I saw classic Mustangs and stuff like that, classic Vets. And it was always every Sunday. All these guys, they're probably pilots, just come in just like, I'll buy that. They're wearing like their hat, the Corvette hat and their Audi hat and stuff like that. They're coming in and out. That was really cool to see the cars up close because I always worked a lot. I grabbed the shopping carts that went astray. Yeah.
Okay.
They certainly can't drive those cars into Atlanta.
No.
Potholes and everything. They wouldn't have a car left.
No, the roads around here are actually pretty nice for cars.
Yeah.
Pretty nice for cars here.
Yeah.
You see a lot of exotics around
The
here.
little
but
country roads hidden away.
Don't go down. Those of you who do not know about Georgia, don't go into Atlanta with an exotic.
No. Just
You're
going
not
to scratch
gonna be
it.
happy.
Just going to bang it up.
Yeah.
Explain what you mean by exotic.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Sports cars like McLaren, like the Bugatti, the Lambo.
guys.
Now, would you say an exotic is something that's not only a foreign car, but also over a certain price range? Or just anything that's rare and you don't see
Everything
a lot?
that's rare that you don't see a lot.
Okay.
It's a sports vehicle that's typically going to be in the 200,000 up and above.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Now $2 to $3 million for some of these cars.
But they're usually over like $100,000. That's usually where the supercar price starts, in my opinion.
Those cars are all, I think they're handmade. They're not like doing assembly line. These people make these vehicles.
Yeah, Koenigsegg is famous for that. They don't have assembly lines. They just build them all from scratch, pretty much.
Rolls Royce,
Same story.
that's considered an exotic. I think in my mind it would be an
Yeah,
exotic.
it's usually, like, if you want to get really technical, I'd say it's usually anything that's not manufactured in the United States. So Corvette is not an exotic.
So exotic by the literal term.
Yeah, if you want to get really specific,
Okay.
like it would be that, but I would say...
BMW would be considered an exotic. It's just
My
like,
Honda
yeah.
Civic is exotic.
Technically, that's exotic too. So yeah, it is a broad term, but in the classical sense, it's more like
I can go 0 to 60 in a
Eventually.
couple of minutes.
eventually.
When you go to fix it, all you need is the paint code. For a Rolls Royce, that paint belongs to that owner.
Yeah.
Every car they make has a particular paint
Really?
that's made just for that owner.
Yeah, and no other car
Yeah.
has it. Yeah, so.
Really?
Yeah.
But that's only
Okay.
for like the ultra super luxury $1 million.
For those who can afford a Rolls Royce, now you know.
There you go.
So you told us on our Cars podcast that we had that you were much more into the American muscle. You love the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
You do have a love and respect for any kind of supercar, I assume.
Correct. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And
Don't want one in my garage.
No.
Let me tell you why. $2 million for, let's say, a Bugatti, right?
They're not all that
And
expensive.
a tornado comes along.
That's true.
Or you drive it, and you got to be careful where you go because your undercarriage undercarriage has, I don't know, 20 some odd bolts just to remove the undercarriage, just so you could change the oil. And if you
The livability with the car is pretty hard.
Yes, the
yeah.
convenience and the inconvenience. $35,000 just to tune the car up.
If you can afford that car, you're not working on it yourself,
True.
right?
Which takes away
yeah.
from some of the enthusiast element of
I'd
it.
want to do some stuff on my own, you know?
Yeah, there's a certain culture around a supercar versus a muscle car. Yeah, I'd say.
You're importing the workers from the home country to fly in, drive to your house, and work on it for you.
Depending on
And
which
then
car you buy.
sending them back.
There's a graveyard in the United Arab Emirates,
Oh yeah,
In-
people can't
in,
pay their debts.
Dubai, where they just leave their cars in this junkyard.
GTRs.
These,
What?
Yes,
40s.
these incredible supercars.
What?
And they get eaten up by the sand. It's crazy. Some of them get
certain
auctioned
things
off and they're
happen.
restored.
They lose their business or something, and they're in debt, and they have to leave before they get in trouble, or they're in trouble with the law, and they'll leave their car, and the car gets impounded, and it's put on this lot, and it gets really sandy and dirty. Some cars are totaled and wrecked, and I mean, just the interior parts alone, one of those seats in good condition on one of those cars is worth
figures.
thousands of dollars.
Whoa.
Just, you know, I would
Strange.
love to go there with a wrench. Take some
And a
stuff
trailer
apart.
and
but then
take
you gotta drive it all the way over to the Atlantic Ocean. That's gonna be hard.
Yeah, go over to
That's gonna be rough.
go over to like Greece or something and ship it out from there. I don't know, something.
Right.
Yeah. So.
As far as Lego cars, Lego has been making race-related things probably since the 80s and 90s.
Actually, it goes even back even further.
Really?
They had a classic line there were larger cars about this big that were in like I think it was like the 60s or something, the 60s and later into the 70s. It was just before the classic Spaceman, and they had a line of like they were like Model Ts and stuff like that, like really old
Really?
ones. I remember reading about them. I don't remember the exact dates.
Wow, I've
maybe
never seen
missing
those.
that.
I remember,
But yeah, they're super rare.
and those old Samsonite tubes came with the little metal cars, which we talked about on the last
Yeah.
podcast.
Oh right.
That were Lego brand.
Yeah,
but
but
they
they're
weren't
like
buildable.
essentially a Hot Wheels.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I remember.
But the Lego buildable car that was like minifig scale was like 80s, 90s, and it kind of just mixed in throughout the city.
Yeah.
And then at some point they were called Race, and then I think 1999 was the Racers video game.
Yes, Lego Racers. I
And
remember that.
kind of started that. Now, every time I mention that game to an employee that was of a certain age, like you and Mark and some of the others,
You have to be a certain age.
it's the same reation. There's so much love and admiration
It's
for those
basically
games.
it's like Mario Kart, but for a Lego enthusiast. Like, it's just so iconic. It's so fun. And you could customize your own car. You could build it. That's one of the things that got me into cars was Lego Racers. I forgot about that.
Mark
'Cause
talks about that game all the time.
it's so good. If you ever have an old... I don't know how you would play it. Maybe it's on Steam or something, but that was one of the most classic games ever made. The mechanics were so good. The power-ups were great. It was just...
And
music was
current
awesome.
themes showed up as cars.
Yeah, you
in
could
the
play in
video
the
games.
pirate scene. You could play in the worlds that you could build. Almost like the same concept as Minecraft. Like, you could build the Lego set in real life, and then you could play in the game with, like, the same elements, like the pirate sails and the castles, and, you know, the sets would even show up sometimes. It was really crazy.
So that's a little bit where the history came from. Today we are talking about the specific branded Speed Champions. And Speed Champions isn't even the first time Lego used license. They've had license many years. There's a Racers that we brought in, and
Yep,
that's
this
what
is one of
is
the old ones.
This is that Ferrari?
Yep, this
Yeah,
is
it's
Ferrari.
Yes,
This
it's the
is
horsey. It's the horsey one.
A couple have horses, so don't get them mixed up.
That's true.
This is the F1 truck, the F1 car on the side. I love it how they have just a simple stud for the character's head. That's supposed to be the head of the driver, I
This
believe.
is not minifig scale.
No, it's micro.
And we actually, right now, have this built.
Yeah, how old is that set?
Um,
I would say 2000s.
2008. Speed
good
Champions
successor.
has been very popular. Since 2015, it's been ongoing, right? They haven't taken a break.
No.
Correct. At some point, a couple of years ago, they switched from 6-stud to 8-stud, and we'll talk about that when we get into it. We've got a bunch of really cool cars out here. We're not going to go in any sort of order. First time talking about cars on our podcast. Why
Okay.
don't you pick first?
Let's talk about the one I brought. Yeah, you guys don't
Okay.
have this one in the store, but for fun, I brought the Bugatti. So I absolutely, the Bugatti Chiron, or however it's pronounced.
Bugatti
Yeah,
Chiron.
Bugatti Chiron. This car is super cool. It has a rubber band for the taillights.
We had a
That's
few of them in the
couple-
store.
yeah.
Did you buy that one from us?
I may have, honestly.
They're expensive now.
Yeah, they're really cool. They
expensive.
went up in price like crazy. This, in my opinion, the best 6-stud car. The Chiron as a car itself is crazy. It has 1,600 horsepower. It has a V16, a 16-cylinder engine. To give you an idea, Corvette has a V8, so it's like almost twice as
like
much.
two
It's
engines.
twice as two engines.
Two engines
in one car. It's crazy fast. Each wheel, the tire alone on a car like this costs $20,000. So it's just it's such a sweet car. It's a brilliant successor to the Veyron. And honestly, it's a great set.
Is that the same type of Bugatti that they made the large Technic?
The one that
Is it
drives
the
on its
same
own
exact-
weight, it's the
Okay.
same car, same model. So this is
Okay.
based on that. This is like they have a bunch of models of these. They had they have the larger blue one. They had I think they had another one. But this is like the little one that you can get for not you won't break your bank
And
account.
Speed Champions was, for being a licensed theme and being very parts intensive,
Oh yeah,
they were like $20 when they first came out.
such a bargain.
That was a
They're like
really
20
good
apiece.
deal.
Yeah.
They've increasing like every other year they got like $5 more expensive. But yeah, so is this like first, second generation?
I
Speed
think
Champion?
it's the first generation,
So
but it's
that's-
just on the very tail end of it, I think.
Wow. How
super
about you,
cool.
sir? You
Yeah,
want
you're
to pick
next.
an
You're
American
next.
car?
Yeah, pick an
Oh,
American.
man, it's
Mustang.
between the two of them here. I really like Mopar.
There you go.
Mopar.
Oh, explain Mopar really quick.
Mopar is a Chrysler product. It's Dodge. It's They make the motors like GM, like General Motors.
Yeah.
The Hemi was one of the best, I think, the best performing engines in the 70s. It was a 426 Roadrunner. Some people think, 455. No, 426. 455 is just a truck engine that you can put in a car. Yeah, it's got a lot of horse, it's got a lot of power, but it's not like
the
the
same
Hemi.
thing.
At least that's my opinion. I could be completely wrong, and I don't care if I am. It's my opinion. I like the way this car looks. It's got a raised manifold with the intake. It just looks real Mad Maxy.
The ride height's pretty intimidating too.
Yeah,
It's really cool.
yeah, and I've got a Hemi in my truck, but it's just not the same. But these things have power. They're just really.
Yeah.
Is this at all related to Vin Diesel's car?
Yeah, it could be. Right? Did he have the? I don't recall. Did
He may
have the,
have, because you could almost use that in a Fast and Furious thing, couldn't you?
Yeah.
I love how they used the actual Technic pieces for the engine detail, and it works so well to go from regular system
It's
to
perfect,
Technic. I mean, it looks exactly like what it's supposed to.
What I like about Mopar is different from Ford and GM is that it maintains the horsepower at higher RPM, where it tends to drop off with GM motors and Ford. They were able to maintain more horsepower under higher RPM than Ford or GM. They would just start dropping off. I love all those cars in the 70s. The Camaro, look at this bad boy. Same thing, raised manifold with an intake. This has been jacked up in the back. It's modified. Of course, these cars didn't come out of that didn't come out of the factory that way. This was souped up. With the Mickey Thompsons in the back, and you had to cut that axle, you had to cut the wheel wells in there and make room for these tires. They're great off the block, not street legal.
No.
They wouldn't let you
That's for
ride
the
these in
drag
street.
strip, isn't it?
Yeah, this is for the drag. It's a lot of money to put into this car. Probably roll cage in there. But, I mean, they're just a lot of fun to drive, too. They're so simple, too. The inside, you don't have all those doodads and gadgets. You don't have a backup camera. You don't have anything lighting up. You have a little bulb inside the dash that gives you your speed, and your high beams aren't on the console. You have a little clicker on the bottom where you had to hit with your foot,
With your
and
foot?
that's your high beam. You hit your little clicky
that's
thing on the
fun.
left. The coolest thing too is if you get a standard speed, which today a standard is an anti-theft device, because a lot of these young guys don't know how to drive these cars with the standard shift.
Yeah.
But with a souped-up car and a stick, man, you can control your power. You control off the block how fast you go, and you can
Smarter
you can
driving.
really use that car to its full potential manually using the shift on the transmission.
You reminded me, my dad used to restore Model A's, and some of the Model A's had the accelerator as a lever.
Oh.
So there was a pedal accelerator as well, but you had the lever accelerator.
Nice.
Really?
Yes, so you could.
Nice.
That is strange.
Yeah, very, very weird. I forget which models had that, but some of the Model A's had that.
Man.
Yeah, you just reminded me talking about that
They
light.
didn't go that fast.
No.
No.
Very heavy cars for how small they are, because
yeah.
everything was like
Solid
iron
steel.
and steel.
Cast iron.
Now, tell me, in your shop that you and your dad worked in, did you guys ever worked on a dragster or some custom
like this?
thing?
We've worked on things, yeah. Not our own. We worked on other people's cars. I would beg my dad, hey, let's do some racing, let's do some dragons. Like, no, there's no money in it. He was right. There's no money in it. My dad was into it for the business. And it's a lot of fun when one of these cars come in and you get to work on them. And there's a lot of body on this car. These are 70s cars are huge. They're big. The Monte Carlos, the GTOs,
Land yachts.
They're boats. And cars today, they're a lot smaller. They're easier to prep. They're easier to sand down. You cannot weld, or you cannot. Back in the old days, we used to be able to heat a fender with a torch and bang it out and shape it and make it smooth again, and then you put a little bit of Bondo and a little bit of putty. Today, people, or back in those days, some backyard guys used to just get buckets of Bondo and they just slap it on the back and hope that it takes. But in a year or two, that stuff cracks and starts peeling off. If you do it right, which is heat the metal and bang that out, you're doing great. But today's cars, you can't do that. You got to replace the part completely. You cannot reshape the steel because you'll change you'll denature the metal and you'll make it brittle. And it just won't work, and it'll be dangerous to drive.
You know a lot about cars. I didn't even know.
I grew up in a body shop.
There you go.
He was a grease monkey.
Yeah.
There you go.
Or assistant grease monkey.
Yeah, but no, we never worked on anything too exotic. I mean, we did. I drove in Porsches before. We worked on those, Mercedes, and I got the pleasure of working on them, and they were neat to look at different cars and how they were evolving through the years. But it gets boring when you're working on a K car or a Pinto or just somebody's Ford Probe. I remember those Ford Probes.
Those are terrible. God. I know what you're talking about.
We used to cut those things in half and put them together with another one wrecked probe in the front, one wrecked in the rear. Cut them in half, put them together, and there you go. There's your car.
It's like a Corolla, only way dumber. That's basically what the car was.
Oh, I just not much to them.
I'm actually gonna go in the opposite direction. Grab me that Nismo on the corner, the white one, the black and white one. There you go.
Oh, okay. So
we're gonna talk about something that I would be more familiar with. So these came out in 2009, so they're really recent. They don't have that classic American. This is a Japanese.
You mean the real car?
Yeah. So the real car came out in Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. The real car came out in 2009, and this is the interpretation of it. So the Nismo Gtr. So this has a long lineage going back into like the late 80s and 90s. The GTR models from the Skyline. They were never sold in America, and that was really annoying to American car enthusiasts because they were great cars back in like the 90s. And this one is from 2009. They've released the R35. So you had R32 to R34 back in Japan. And those were in all the anime and stuff like that, and people just loved them. They were so cool. And they were very fast. Four-wheel drive, great four-wheel drive, and a V6. So sorry, not very American, but that's what they were. But they came out with the 35 in the United States, and it had the most powerful V6 of any car at the time. And for about, I think it was almost like 10 years it did. So the Nismo, this is the premium. They had the Nissan GTR, and then you had the Nismo. This is like the Mustang and the Mustang GT, same story. This car with a V6 engine that you could find like in a Camry, they souped it up to have 650 horsepower.
What?
From the start. So yeah, this thing is crazy quick.
650,
wow. 650 in a V6 engine. And it wasn't even that big of a liter.
Small
I don't even
body
remember.
too.
Very small. Well, pretty small, but very heavy. It had a very, very advanced all-wheel drive system. Four-wheel drive system. Really great car. And it had there's a track in Germany called the Nürburgring. And all the who's of car companies always try and get the highest record. And for years, this $100,000 car was demolishing Ferraris, demolishing Lamborghinis.
Really?
All these like cars that were 3 times the price were getting whooped by this thing. So it was the little upstart that showed up at a way better price point and just they usually came in manuals. They were really old school. They had a really old-fashioned design. They had twin turbo, I think. But anyway, they were crazy, crazy fast cars. And what's funny, there's not a lot of Japanese cars in the Speed Champions line. There's no Supra. There's no Nissan Z. There's a couple other cars that are missing.
280ZX would be a nice one.
I know,
if
right?
They made, back in the 70s, they had the 78. They
Yeah,
had
I remember
280ZX.
those. Yeah.
They were cute.
Weren't they Fair Ladies? They're
They're
the name
okay.
of them. In Japan, they were called Fair Ladies. But anyway, this is a really great car. I'm so glad they made it. It's the 8-wide stud. And this thing is just so cool. This one is $20 for this, which is crazy. These things
that's
are.
going in your pocket.
I'm
right?
probably gonna buy this after the video's over.
Goodbye.
But
do they still do Le Mans?
yes,
Le
they
Mans?
do. They do. In fact, if you want to talk
So
about
how
Le
would
Mans
that car
really
do
quick,
long distance?
Very well. These things, their fuel economy is a little bit better than some of the really big ones. Long distance, they're very reliable. Well, generally, people who usually bought this car, the problem was people who bought this car were like YouTubers and stuff who didn't know how to drive, and a lot of them got wrecked. Like their transmissions were wiped out because they don't know how to drive them, which is a shame if you ever did want to buy one of these. This is a 458, so this thing is really cool. This went up against the Ford GT in a recent Le Mans a couple years back when the Ford GT was re-released.
That's a Ferrari?
This is a Ferrari 458 Speciale, and these things are awesome. So this was Ferrari's rebirth, right? This car came out, I think it was 2014 or 2013 or something like that. So maybe 10 years old or something like that. Not the set, the car itself. And I've seen it in person. I've seen the 458 in person. Gorgeous car. And when this came out, it shocked the world. It was their mid-range. It was around $200,000, I think, when it first released.
That's a mid-range.
Yeah, that was their mid-range car. The California was down there, and then you had the higher
What's
ones.
annoying about this is when somebody comes in to trade it in and it's missing this.
Oh, yeah.
This windshield.
That's that's
cannot
printed.
That's not a sticker.
That's right. You cannot get this part. It's only in this set.
Mm-hmm.
And kids come in, they'll trade this in. I'm like, where's the windshield? I don't know. I lost it. Of all the parts to lose.
You just dropped
God, I just dropped it. Of all the parts to lose, you lose the windshield.
Yeah.
Here's your 10 cents, kid.
Right,
Take it or leave
Exactly.
it.
But yeah, that is a true race car. A
Yeah.
true race
So,
car.
Yeah.
tell me, in your opinion, makes a supercar? Is there, for a gearhead definition, what is the cutoff of
I
a really
remember-
nice fast car and then, no, this is a supercar?
Good question.
I remember my father telling me this because I
this is
asked him that
This
question.
is good.
I said, "So what's a sports car, Dad?" Because I was talking Camaros and Trans Ams, and he just shrugged his shoulders like, "That's not really a sports car."
Those
All
are
right,
pony
Pop,
cars.
what's a sports car then? He says a real race car is a rear engine, air cooled, and it's made for racing. It's just made for the road. These cars that we have
Made for the
are
strip.
made for the street, just to drive back and forth, and they look sporty. But the engine's in the front. It's got the powertrain going to the back. You lose a lot of horsepower that way. Everything in the rear, the motor's in the rear. All the weight's back there. Everything's pushing, and it's air cooled. You don't have to worry about a radiator pumping water through. So you got more room to get bigger pistons in an engine that's going to burn more and move more and have more horsepower. That's what my father said back in the day. I don't know what it is, because things change. Technology changes very, very quickly. And if you don't keep up on it, like Steven's really up on the new stuff, if you don't keep up on it, it'll pass you by, race you by.
Yeah.
But there's a very good reason why they put the engine in the back. Let me see the 911. This is a good example of a rear engine car. This is a rear engine, right?
It's rear
Yeah,
engine.
okay, yeah. Because there are, I think there are one or two
It's a
Porsches in there.
Volkswagen.
It's Porsche 911.
Yeah, 911.
Volkswagen.
But there's a good reason why. Well, we'll talk about the geometry. I guess this is the word. Why they have the engine in the back is because when it accelerates, it goes like this. The front kind of pops up. So, but if it's rear-wheel drive, the engine is pushing down on the wheels. So when you accelerate, like around getting out of a corner, getting off the line, you get more grip.
Keeps
So
it
you
on
go
the
a
road.
lot faster. So that's one of the advantages for having. Now you can have a front wheel drive and have front engine, front wheel drive, but you're not going to corner as easily. It's just not. It's very complicated. But a front engine car,
You're pulling the vehicle.
you're kind of pulling the vehicle. This, you're pushing the vehicle.
I
And it's
always,
a little nicer that way for racing. It's just a little better, yeah.
and this is my ignorance on race cars and stuff, but I thought mid-engine was the super fast cars and the well-balanced
That's also
cars.
really good. Let me see that McLaren again. Yeah, let me see the orange one. Yeah.
The old one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this, I believe, is mid-engine.
Look, you're talking about you're sitting on top of the motor?
Like it's just
Like
literally
right
just right
underneath
behind
you?
you, like
Right
literally
behind
just
you?
behind your back. That is really good for a track specifically, like corners, like something like
For center of gravity? To
very-
keep the weight down?
yeah, a track that's really like got lots of hills on it, got lots of harsh corners. That's good for center of gravity as well. But I think a rear-engine car will be quicker off the line than a mid-engine
okay.
car.
Now, that's a 6-stud, right?
Yes.
Now look
Yeah.
at the 6-stud compared to...
Yeah, let's
Look at
talk
the
about that. We
differences.
taled about cars, but let's talk about the
So,
stats too.
This is,
Yeah.
you tell me, Mockmaster. What I heard is the reason why, like, obviously all of these cars are much wider in real life, and the overall silhouette of it is much
Yeah.
more akin to 8-stud. But the reason why they started with 6-stud is because Lego road plates. It has always been 6-stud is kind of the maximum comfortable size
Yeah.
to have them in your scene. And that's been the traditional, even mock makers and professional mock tend to keep minifig size cars at 6-stud. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's down to the minifig, I think, because a minifig needs 4 studs. It's inevitable. You have to have 4 studs for a minifig. You can't do 2 for his seat. So he's got to have place for his arm. He's got to have elbow room. So after that, you can go 1 stud, and that's like that's what people have used a lot historically and in the past. I think the reason for that is because they want to have, if you're building with a minifig, you want to keep it minifig scale. It'll look nicer. It'll just be, more fun that way. It's kind of tradition almost. But with the 8 stud, I cannot deny, I don't like how big it is compared to the minifig. Yeah, but there's no denying. I mean, look at the. Hang on, let me get that sticker off that. That looks like a Jag. That looks like a Jag compared to this. The Focus is honestly kind of hard to know what the car is, and unless it has a really iconic shape, like some of these Camaros here, and the Bugatti and the Porsche, it's kind of hard. Like that looks really nice, but come on. I think Lego really thought they could up their game by adding another stud.
Oh, yeah.
And they were right. Because now you can have 2 people passenger seats. Because if you look here, there's only like 1 or 2 cars in the world that ever sit in the middle. I think it's the Mclaren P1 and the Speedtail. The F1. The McLaren F1, the P1 is different. But if you look, he's sitting in the middle. That's not what cars do. You don't sit in the middle of a car, you never see that. But in the GTR here, he's sitting on the right, and that's what a car is really like. So they can have a little more accuracy. They can make it more detailed. But if you had it in a Lego City, it wouldn't look as good. So it's a trade-off, but I think it's one that was worth it.
So they're too big in the 8 stud, but they look way more like the car.
If you put this in your Lego City, it would look weird, but it looks way more like a car if you had it just sitting by itself, or with the other ones.
I guess the difference is, are you going to use it for your city or use it for your shelf?
Yeah, my personal opinion, I like the truer to scale for a minifig just because that's how I build all the time. But I get it. I really get it.
I always, even when they first came out, like this is a Corvette. Right?
Camaro.
Oh, that's a Camaro.
GM, close up.
Okay, so sorry.
No, it's
I'm
good.
car
It's
dumb.
good.
It's a cousin.
It's a little brother.
So these Camaros and Corvettes are really wide.
They are. They're
cars, and this does not look
low.
wide at all.
Also, they're lower. This is too tall.
And this is a vet.
That's the vet, yeah.
It's a skinny vet.
Okay, but then look at these, because these are
the difference.
These are both Ferraris.
Yeah, this is the F40, and this is, I don't know this car.
But these should have similar silhouettes, right? Similar outlines.
This one's a little more squarish, but they should have the same ride height, same length.
That's like the Magna
it is.
one. Yeah.
But either way, they should look pretty similar.
This one is gorgeous. I know
That's
nothing
the
about
nicest
cars,
looking car here, for sure.
And I can just look at this completely subjectively
and
not knowing
it's a
anything
Ferrari.
about cars, and it's like, that's beautiful.
I know, right?
You know, the new Corvette looks a little bit like that.
They're very similar.
Oh man, they look beautiful.
And there's no mistake.
I
mean, just look at you have the segmented windshield on the back. You've got this gorgeous, unique windshield on the front here. Absolutely stunning, printed, I might add.
Again, that hardware
printed. You got the interior. You have the center console in there too. And you have the detailing on the inside like that with the 2-seater. This is one of the nicest Lego cars I think they've made in a long time.
These cars, if you never built a Speed Champions car, which I did buy this one just because I love the color scheme and the weirdo.
That's a nice color
scheme. Is that an 8? That's a 6, isn't it? It's a 6 one.
This is the McLaren.
I think that's one of the last ones they did.
Yeah.
This is the only one I own, and I bought it just because it's gorgeous. It has a unique wheel color.
That is unique. It's orange.
And they use this. What is that piece called for the headlights?
That's an axe. That's a Nexonite axe.
Like the Nexonite axe for
it's an
the
axe
lights
blade. It's a minifig weapon for the lights.
These builds are so parts intensive to get these strange angles and shapes. There's all these little studs on the side and these plated studs on the side and cheese slopes. Even the internals are insane to get these angles. And even on these older ones, you can see all the crazy directions things are built. And a lot of new slopes came out for this line.
Specifically,
designers did a really good job.
They killed it. They killed it.
Why has Speed Champion jumped up so much?
It's a Mustang.
He likes his muzzle.
It's okay.
It's the 5.0 too. It's the 5.0.
I've driven every single Mustang made from '64. We've owned it from '64 on up to the late '70s, early '80s, and they're okay.
Come on, they're
nice.
They're the entry for the world of cars.
A good movie to watch, y'all, is Ford versus Ford.
Oh, I love that. Have you seen that?
Watch it,
please.
Definitely
Please watch it. It is so good.
The reason this car is so much is because it's rare, and it's no longer being made.
They get discontinued.
They get discontinued, so now the price is.
You mean the real car or the
Lego? The Lego.
Well, the real ones too, but now we're back to Lego.
Yeah, same thing with the Mustang back in the old days. Man, they were just. To me, I didn't appreciate the car like I do now. It was just something I had to work on. I'm driving this 68 convertible into the shop. The gas pedal sticks. Those things had carburetors. The throttle body would get stuck. And here I am just revving up into the garage. And I was just a kid. I was 12 years old, 13 years old. Quick thinking, I just turned the key off. It just cuts off the motor. And I didn't break anything. I didn't hit anything in the shop. Didn't bust the toolbox or anything. So I was just, whoo, okay, great. Dodge that bullet. But these cars, they're not that technical. They're not that complicated. A lot of people, when they restore vehicles, they want the Mustang. They want to restore the Mustang. Parts are everywhere. Aftermarket parts, so easy to find. Try doing that with, I don't know, a GTO maybe. It's going to be a lot harder to do. But these cars, they're just so easy to restore because there's so many aftermarket.
But Mustangs aren't considered supercars, right? Or most of them are not.
No.
It's
sports car.
Yeah, pony car, sports car, and then the muscle car is usually a V8, if not exclusively a V8.
So where is that? Is it a horsepower? Where's that line? What becomes a supercar?
Well, it's not engine size because this has a V6. That's a very small engine.
Yeah, but the power.
It's usually the power.
It's horsepower.
Usually the power. Usually, I think it's 400 horsepower and up is a supercar.
Oh,
now it's been pushed up to like 500.
Yeah.
But I think Jeremy Clarkson from Grand Tour said 500 horsepower is like perfect for a supercar, and that's kind of where it sits usually or above. So a Mustang, most Mustangs come out of the factory. For a long time, they came out with only 200 horsepower for a long time, and then they got jumped up to like 300. Now they're more up to getting into 400 because of the EcoBoost.
I think the Mach 1 brought it up to 300.
Yeah, that's right. So
what year car is this?
This is 2000. Oh, hang on, I can tell you from the headlights. This is 2015, 16. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, 15, 16. But you asked about the price for these things. Like why is this one $60, but that gorgeous Ferrari over there is labeled for 15 right now. We're currently $15. This one is 20, and like, what's the deal? Like this Audi, look at this bad boy. This is a rally car, and this is $15 right here.
Yeah.
So why? Well, here's the thing, folks. I've actually had a lot of people over the weekends come in for Christmas shopping, and they want cars for their grandsons and whatnot. These have become really collectible. So these have had like people who have a Mustang, they want a smaller model to go with it. Like that's the thing for cars. I don't know about people who have Porsche 918s, $1.5 million car, but people obviously don't have millions of dollars. They'll buy the model. And these are really fun because a lot of model cars, you can build them, but you need glue. It gets messy, like model kit cars and stuff like that. They're fun, but the parts it's very difficult, it's very intensive. There's no glue, you just put them together. Lego's always been very competitive. And now Lego has its own model car line. And they've become really popular because they're filling a demand. They're just a little bit better than most model cars. They fill a demand, and when they get discontinued, they're not in production anymore. They won't make them again. Well, they might do a new one later, like some of these Ferraris. I think they've been remade. I think
it'd be nice if they remake them in a different color.
I know, right?
That'd
they would.
be nice.
Speaking of color, and now that we've switched over to the 8 stud, it'd be nice to see what they can do with some of these in the 8 stud.
Yeah.
This one I do like because I'm not a big car guy, but you can immediately
tell
know
that's a Mustang.
That is a Mustang. Look at that front.
Oh, can I tell you a joke around this car? So I told my buddies on a live, it was like a Zoom call. I'm sorry, Discord call. We were having a lug meeting. Like, hey guys, I bought a Mustang. Like, whoa, what year? I'm like, this year. It's like, really? This year? I'm like, yeah, here it is. And it works every time. You have one of these. Hey, I bought a Mustang. I bought a Porsche. Like that's always such a fun joke. If you ever get one of these, try it. It's funny.
Yeah. There you go. Joke advice. You get joke advice.
You get some good comedy advice.
To me, this is classic Mustang colors too, because you think Ford blue with the white. It's so classic. So maybe that's why this is. Is this the most expensive one here?
I doubt it. A boxed McLaren is $100.
The Bugatti would be the most.
I meant the actual
this one would be the
set.
most expensive.
The set.
Sell it.
The set, I think.
The set that is $60, and that Corvette is $60.
Correct. Yeah.
I think this one here in the set is way high.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I have the box for this. But the Bugatti, and I know the McLaren's very expensive.
And that's one of the older.
Oh, this one is 50 out of the box.
Earlier models.
So I think the 918. This was designed to compete with the LaFerrari over there.
Okay.
So this was like the holy trinity of super hybrids. The LaFerrari's naturally aspirated. But anyway, this one was really expensive this one went up in price pretty quickly. Yeah.
And you mentioned, I love the point you made. Like, people actually own these, people don't typically
that's why-
own these.
No! I mean,
and that can
yeah.
drive up the price.
That's true
Because more people want these.
Demand.
Wow, I would have never thought
how many
that.
people have red Camaros?
Yeah.
Lots of people got red Camaros. So yeah, obviously they're going to buy one something like this because it goes along with it. That people will actually bring their model car to a car show and put it on their dashboard.
They do that, yeah.
It's
do
a
that
thing.
lot.
Really?
Yeah.
So this is like another way of doing that.
Back in my day, it was Hot Wheels.
Oh, they still do that. They
Hot
still
Wheels
do
on
that.
the dash.
Oh,
yeah.
that's still a thing.
Yeah.
That's still a thing. There's a lot around car culture, and car culture is they've started to pick up on these. They really like them, and that's why if you want to get one of these for your grandson or whatever, you got to be quick because they do go. They get cycled through really fast.
Yeah.
So you always want to keep an eye out for these if you really want one. So I'm not surprised that they go up in value, but some people really are
Yeah,
surprised.
I always tell customers, if you're on the fence, get off the fence and just get it.
You really
won't
should.
regret it. Just
really
get
should.
it.
Well, Chris always says, if you want it, get it now because it's the cheapest it'll ever be.
That is correct.
It's true.
When in doubt, buy them out.
Yeah. You can always resell it to us if you
That's
change
right.
your mind.
That's true. That's true. You can do that. Let's talk about the only Lamborghini on the table. So this is a Urus, and it shares.
What you call me?
A
not
Urus, Urus, whatever they're called. This is the Lamborghini's second SUV. The first one was in the 80s. They made two of them, and they're crazy rare and expensive. That's a different story. But this is a Urus. It shares a platform with the Porsche. These are the biggest ones here, and this is where I think it gets a little too far. I think these are just a little...
They're out of minifig scale, you mean?
Exactly. Look at this Audi, which is more of it's a rally car. They have a similar size, but the Urus just looks a little bit large to me. I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, the wheelbase is a bit longer. The tires are bigger. It's an off-roader, but this one is.
I think they're maybe going a little too far.
Yeah, just a bit.
They need to
so
just
there's
bring it.
a fine
But-
balance. Yeah,
It looks more like the car, right?
I agree. I think it looks a little bit more, but I
Have
don't
you all
know.
seen the Mustang SUV?
Oh, the
Electric
Mach-E.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
like, did I
awkward.
just slip into a
Alternate-
alternate universe?
Yeah, they should have called it the Ford Falcon. They should have called it the Falcon.
Yeah, they should have something else, anything else, but it's like
Because that's an older car from like the 50s.
Mustang.
It was a really liked car.
SUV.
Doesn't work.
And it doesn't say Ford on it, just the horses on it, and it's all electric. Mustang SUV.
You made the Bronco. It's so good, and then you make that. Like,
Yeah.
how did you
The
do
Bronco
that at the
was
same
great.
time?
I loved it when they started making these vehicles new, but in a retro look.
Yeah, that's
and then
what
they
this
take
was.
The Mustang
That's what this
and
was.
they just said, "We're gonna hurt you bad. Look what we're gonna do to you. We're gonna make you
Burn
a
the
grocery
heart out
getter,
of you."
a grocery getter and soccer mom car. Ha 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 ha. It's like Dr. Evil took over Ford, and it's like, wow. I just okay.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
So it's interesting that you say that because it did remind me that neo retro is what I call it. I don't know
Yes.
if that
Mhm.
design
Yes, that's
has a
good way
name.
to- yeah.
Okay, that started in like '95.
Did it really?
I think
Some of the
because
earliest
that's when Jeep changed from the square headlights back to the round. So to me,
that's right.
and
They
remember
changed the '97 model.
'97. Okay,
Yeah,
I knew it
pretty
was
close.
in the '90s.
But it was in the 2000s they followed right after. And
They
you know,
were the first ones to start doing the retro look coming back.
and the Prowler was kind of the beginning of that too.
then you had the
Wasn't
Ford
that around that
Thunderbird.
time?
You
Around
had
that
the Ford
time.
Thunderbird.
Ford Thunderbird.
Then you
And
had
what
PT
was the
Cruiser,
small
PT
Chevy
Cruiser.
truck?
I think in the '80s and early '90s were boxy.
Yes.
Square, boxy,
Then
chop
they had
lines,
software, and then they made them all round
straight
again.
lines. Yeah, and then they started coming back to the more. It'd be nice if they ever came back with those fishtails in the back.
The only car that
was
has
cool.
that now is the Cadillac. They have it on
Yeah,
the taillights.
that's good.
A
They
little
need
bit.
to.
Oh,
it's
nice.
Fun. It's cool.
So-
But can I touch on that actually?
Sure.
What's funny is some cars never change. So if you look at
Yes.
If you look at the-
Porsches.
this is from Europe and this is from America. These are the two only cars in the industry that really have never ever changed. This is the Challenger, yeah. So this thing is essentially the exact same as it was from like what, the 60s when it came out?
Early '70s.
Early 70s when it first came out, and the 911, you can look at a 911 from 75, and you can compare it with one from 2019.
Yes.
And they look so similar. Some styles, and BMW is a similar story. But yeah, some cars do not change in style. And it's really interesting to see that, and it's also nice to see it replicated in Lego like this, because that's one thing. If the car is so iconic, you cannot miss it. Like
Yeah.
the front, from the back, it does look like a Camaro. I will concede that. But
That's
from
from
the
the
front,
back it did, yeah.
from the front, it looks just
Definitely
like the Dodge.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that, and that's what's so cool. And you know what's also interesting? I just thought of Lego basically made their own Hot Wheels line with this, didn't they?
Yes.
And I was at the dealership co-signing for a car for my daughter. She got a Leaf. Yeah, she's one of those. She got a Leaf.
Oh, Hey, if Moto's watching, Moto, you have a Leaf. It's fine, but come on, man.
You gotta plug it in for half an hour.
There's some cool stuff out there, man. I'm just saying.
Check it out. We're gonna go to California, right? I'm gonna be there 2 days before you because you gotta stop every 120 miles and charge that thing for a half an hour. Okay, cool.
I'm afraid he's right, Moto.
You do you.
He loves it, though. He loves his Leaf.
They're great cars. I mean, I got to ride in it.
Going back to design aesthetics, do you guys think we're still in the neo-retro? Do you think some designers are still doing that, or are we completely done with it? And when did it end?
I'd say about like maybe 20% of cars I think are embracing a neo-retro to some extent. I'd say the rest of them are all moving forward because think of how many cars there are compared to how many are embracing a fun style.
The neo-retro sells well. It's really catchy, but everything's moving to electric.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be electric. They're going to have greater performance-wise, longer-lasting batteries.
Yeah, because batteries have been bad for a long time.
More hybrids, but everything is moving in that direction. That's what I see in the world of automobiles.
But it's a little slower than you might say, because there's one thing I want to bring up about cars. Can you pass me that gray one, the one you bought? So this is a fun car. This is one of the last ones I did with 6 studs. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
I do have a fun story. This is a Senna, McLaren Senna. That's the name of the car. This thing is crazy lightweight. Like it's one of the lightest supercars that McLaren's ever made.
It's carbon fiber mostly.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But here's the funny story. The car that came before this, kind of, was the Mclaren P1. There's the F1 in the old days and the P1 now. It has 900 horsepower. But anyway, the P1, which they make a P1. It looks awesome. But this car, the P1 was hybrid. So it had a lot of electric in it. Like a lot of electric elements, a lot of batteries, a lot of other things to really give it some crazy performance. But this car threw away all the batteries, and it's faster than pretty much anything on a track. This is beating like fully electric exotic supercars like crazy because it's just so light. Batteries weigh a ton. Yeah. This thing only has 700 horsepower. That's it. But those doors are glass. Wow. That's why it has a panel down there, if you can see that. The doors are glass in the real car. If you look up a Senna, they're one of the craziest looking vehicles. So it's like, a gas engine is lighter than an electric one. It's crazy because you have an engine.
Because of the battery?
An electric supercar has basically an engine behind every wheel. So it's got like, I don't know, half more engine almost. So like if you add up the weight compared to just the engine that would be in the rear. So this thing is crazy light. And it still proves that, even though there's a ton of Teslas and other things, gas can still really hold its own in a fair fight on a track. It is fun to see the old school old timer really kick some butt.
It's going to be interesting to see what the market does, because a lot of this is market driven.
True.
Nobody wants to spend $4 for a gallon per gas.
That's true.
But when you hear an electric vehicle go down the road, you don't.
Yeah, that's true.
When a real muscle car comes down the road, I mean, I don't have to look at it to know a Hellcat's going by.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have to look outside to hear a Harley.
Yeah.
And it's that, us gearheads like that noise, we like that sound. Yeah. So maybe in the future when they come up with electric cars, they'll put a speaker system in the motor.
Or maybe they'll make the engine so that it actually makes a noise. Maybe they'll actually do. Maybe someone will actually do that.
I can see that.
The Teslas have a backup noise that it just does, because otherwise you might run into someone.
Like a golf cart, yeah. Like a golf
Not like a beep beep, but it has some kind of like or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
As far as design aesthetic,
a
lot of electric cars are doing this weird space agey thing. Like you see it, and even if you know nothing about cars like me, I can tell you that's probably an electric car just by the way it is designed and the way it looks.
The problem is that never lasts. It's a style trend. If you look at older Teslas, they look kind of weird. Yeah. If you look at newer ones, they're like, ooh, that's cool. Well, it's new. So that does change a lot.
But you're going to see no door handles. We just touch it. You come up and you touch the door. And
there's a problem with that. If you start touching stuff, you get fingerprints. So a door handle minimizes it.
It does. So it does. But I'm seeing that a lot, though, in some of the newer cars. You just come up to the car. Usually a button on your fob will open the door. But people put their foot underneath the back of the car, and the hatch opens up now. So we're going to be seeing a lot of different little doodads.
A friend of mine that I knew that was a gearhead too, he said he was a Corvette guy, loved Corvettes.
Yeah.
And he always said, those modern Corvettes, I don't know, they look like Transformers, like they want to kill you. That was his
You should see
explanation
You should see
of
the C2, right?
Yes.
Like the one, the Stingray with like the
Yes.
side pipes. How mean that
Yeah.
car looked.
And the
You should
seat.
go back in the old days and see those cars.
His idea was like they were all like multi-layered. There was no smoothness about it anymore. It was
he's
all
right.
sharp angles.
It does. It looks like an exotic to me. It looks like one of those exotic cars. They're beautiful.
And there's no accident there.
I like them.
Could you guys pick the your personal 3 best looking cars from this entire roster and say why? Because there's a lot
Is
of
that yours?
No, I think
Yeah.
the McLaren to me is one of the best looking ones. And
yeah,
the
there you go.
Ferrari over
So-
there, just the detail, just the way they're made.
Now, what about a third one? You got a third one here.
I like this Charger.
That is a
Does
good.
it-
Yeah,
it-
it's longer.
It
it's
looks like a Charger, and it
That
looks
is cool.
really good. It's for 6 studs. It ain't too bad.
This is a hard one because, in my opinion, this is the best looking car as a car here. Not the set though. The grill doesn't do it justice. The grill is just stickers. This car in real life is amazing. I've seen it in person a couple times. It's amazing. But set wise, hand me that Ferrari. That thing is
That looks so. In your
number
opinion,
one.
That looks most like the real car of anything here.
This looks most like the real car for sure,
Okay.
by a large
Definitely
margin.
agree.
This is the best looking car here. However, for silver, I'd have to go with my favorite, the Bugatti. For a 6 stud wide, this is probably the nicest looking one here in my opinion, just my humble opinion. After that, it's a hard toss up because I think, for third place, I think it'd actually have to be this 911 because I love the color. I love the 911 as a car. I think they're really cool. They're really technical. They got a neat design. This is honestly a really sweet looking ride here. So I'm going to have to roll with the 911 as my
I
third
like
place.
the lime green 911 that they make.
Really?
Or Porsche.
I haven't seen it.
To get that rounded Porsche.
Oh wait,
little
can I
light, they
take
use
my
a
third?
Technic-
Can I take my
Oh,
third
yeah.
place back? I just noticed that. Yeah, the Nismo. There you go.
Which is the worst? Which is the one that
worst
that did
car.
not translate? Or you can't get that shape in 6 wide.
Oh, I know.
I see my eyes right there on
This car. This is the Ford Focus ST. No, sorry, Ford Focus RS. This is a rally car made to go in the dirt.
and it's a Focus.
My buddy, okay, if my buddy Cameron's watching this, he's gonna go up to bat, go to war for this car because he has one of these. Not an RS, it's an ST.
I'm sorry. It's the
Cameron.
Focus. Cameron, I'm sorry.
Yeah, this set, no, it's supposed to be a hatchback, but it looks like an Inspector Gadget's car, but not quite as good. Because even that car is really cool.
I wouldn't have said that. I
I'm
would not
sorry,
have said
it
that.
does not
Ouch.
look good. And I have a vendetta against this car. You want to hear a story?
Sure,
Here's
yes.
a story. This
Yes.
ties into Lego Masters. We famously stated that we beat Tyler in a contest at a convention once. So that was interesting because I didn't actually face Tyler. I faced some of his other teammates. And one of them was centered around this set. It had just come out. Buddy Simon Liu, shout out, great guy, you're amazing. But this was a mistake. So he had us do a challenge where we had to move like the instruction sheet over to a different table. Then they would build something, then pass it off to another person. And it was kind of like a tag team thing with a set like this. It was really hard to organize, but you had to build the set and you had to get the stickers on and stuff like that. It was a lot of work. We came in third out of 4 teams, me and like 2 other guys. And it would be Mark and another person who actually faced Tyler. And it was Geneva, who she was on our team. And she would actually be the one to go over the finish line. But this had something to do with that moment on Lego Masters where we had to build this as a competition.
Without the instructions.
So it was like passed around. I don't even remember the rules at this point. It was very confusing. But this was part of that whole, we beat Tyler, like that was part of that whole shtick. So yeah, the color scheme's nice, but this is the worst car here in my opinion.
To me, building these without instructions, even the simpler ones, would be impossible because of what we mentioned earlier. They're so strange in the parts usage and how everything's upside down and man, some of the backs on some of the newer ones are just slotted in just to get that shape. They're not
It's
actually
crazy.
attached. They're amazing. We didn't talk about these yet. These are specifically for racers, right?
Yep.
Normal people can't own these, right? Or
No.
can they?
Those are Le Mans racers, I believe.
Yeah, they're Le Mans.
So some Le Mans cars are sold for the road, and I think some aren't, depending on which category you're in. But those are gorgeous. Like if you watch Ford versus Ferrari, and then you see those cars, you get it.
Do you
Those are
think
amazing.
these models represent the real car fairly
Yeah,
accurately?
definitely. They're very aggressive. They're only built for aerodynamics. They're the 6-stud. I think these are some pretty good-looking 6-stud models. This is an Audi. They do a ton of racing. They even have the doors. They actually have doors. This is the one car that doesn't have doors, and it has doors on the parts. Here, if you look right there.
Just to get that
right
shape.
there, just to get the shape. This is the one car that doesn't have a door. Or at least I don't think
It has
they do.
literal Lego doors,
That's
but
pretty-
the real car has no. That's funny.
I don't think it does.
No.
As far as I'm
slide
aware,
in.
most of the modern cars don't. They usually just get in through the windows, I
Yeah,
think.
you slide in.
What was your least good-looking car? Like the ugliest one here in your
See,
opinion?
I don't
best
know
one?
the cars
But,
as
like, as a
well,
set,
so
as a
I'm
set.
going purely on
Use your
aesthetics.
eyes.
And you know what?
Just
We won't
yeah.
get mad at you if it's one we like.
Yeah, let me put this out here. Use your eyes.
That one doesn't have the stickers on.
It doesn't. It's naked.
I'm gonna go with this one
Really?
because I don't know, that boxy squared roof.
It is a bit
just
square.
doesn't look right. It doesn't.
It's
I
a
don't
lot
know.
smoother in real life, isn't it?
I would think so.
Yeah.
Because you got some nice lines on the side, and then it just ends right there for me. Again, I don't know the car. I'm just going by aesthetics. I do love the gold rimmed wheels.
That is cool.
That is pretty neat. Best one. I'm gonna go with you guys. I'm gonna go with this. What does the gold
I don't know.
represent on the bottom?
I honestly don't know.
I
I don't
amount
know.
of money it costs to buy it.
Oh.
You have to literally like
That much gold.
So-
weld gold to the bottom.
Frustratingly, I don't know the model of this Ferrari off the top of my head. I know it's
Is it on the license
It's
plate?
very recent. No,
not-
FGD
okay.
2006. That's something else. I don't know the exact model. I know it's not the 458. It's newer than the 458. I don't know the exact model. It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
We'll put it in the description. There you go.
And obviously I like
Oh,
this
yeah.
one just because of the colors and the weird design and some of the strange little angles.
It's very
in that.
aggressive. That's a really
The,
long car,
The
too.
Bugatti. Yeah.
Oh, that's McLaren.
McLaren. I'm sorry. McLaren.
Pretty close.
What do you guys want to see in the future? Are there any cars you're like,
Yeah.
you've got to make
I
that?
got one.
Go ahead.
The Pagani Huayra. So it's the
Okay.
most gorgeous. It's kind of like in the same price category as Bugatti. So it's Pagani and Bugatti. So two different
Not a
brands.
panini.
No.
No.
I don't know what that is.
Sandwich.
I don't even know what that
That's a
is.
sandwich,
That's a
Justin. Go
sandwich.
sit in the corner now.
Anyway, no. Pagani is made by a really talented guy. They're all in-house, like no assembly line.
Right.
There's a Swiss watch brand that made their dials. Sort of like it's got a transmission has a really neat transmission. It's the what's it called? It's not a manual, but it's not an automatic either. It's like the in between. Pagani is just absolutely gorgeous. They made a more aggressive version of the BC. I don't want to see a BC. I want to see the base one. That's the best looking one.
What about you, sir? What is the
I
one
wanna
car you want to
see-
see?
The one car, the one you want to see?
Jeep Wrangler. I want to see the Jeep Wrangler.
Jeep Wrangler.
4-door. It'd be nice to see one.
Did they make a Jeep?
They made one in Jurassic
They
World.
they made
made some Jurassic
right,
World.
they
right,
do
right.
have a creator set that's a Jeep.
Yes.
I'd like to see one in the which I don't know if it's a race car, but it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to see a Rolls. I like to see a Rolls Royce.
The Ghost. That's the fast one. The Phantom Wraith is the big one that everybody wants, but the Ghost is the one that actually has any kind of performance.
Okay, give me a Rolls.
That'd be
We
cool.
don't have one of those yet.
That'd be cool.
Okay.
That'd be cool.
Speed champion rolls. All right.
They've drifted occasionally from the Speed Champions line and done their own, like without the licensing. So what's funny is, if you look here, we've got Octane. We got the Octane logo in like electric. Sorry about the electric. But Octane electric. So that's that goes back a long way. That's Lego's unofficial gas line that they use for all their gas stations. There's always Octane.
Octane.
Funny to see that because Lego for a long time would do their own cars. They did Ferraris way back in the day, but they've done their own models. And what's nice is that some of these are jumping in price like crazy. But if your grandson or if your son doesn't really care for the brand specifically, maybe you can grab something
And
like
these
this.
are obviously based on
Oh yeah,
real
Le Mans
cars.
racer.
I mean,
yeah,
look at
come
that.
on. They got the same tail fins. They
Come
got,
on.
yeah.
So, yeah, that's a great point. If you have a younger child or maybe your price point isn't as high to get some of these. Although the new ones are 30, right? Brand new in the store?
Yeah, that's Lego always goes up. Their set line will go up and up and up.
Yeah.
Depending on it. It's inevitable.
So they're not crazy, but you can get this
I love
for
that
30.
set.
You can get two cars for 30.
Exactly. I love that
Yeah.
set. It's so cool. I love
What do you
the
think that
designs.
one's based on?
It looks like an Audi. Looks like an R8 a little bit.
The red
What do you
one.
think? An Audi?
It looks like an Audi that wants to grow up and be a Dodge Charger.
You're not impressed. I get
Yeah.
it. Yeah. You like the
The
brand.
raised manifold.
Yeah, but I like those sets. I think if you're not as interested, if you like cars but not interested in the badges as much, that's a good choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some friendly consumer advice.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for sitting down and filling my head with all this car knowledge that I didn't know I needed till now. So I appreciate it. Don't forget to comment, tell us what your favorite Speed Champion car is, and let us know what cars do you want to see in the future. Are we going to
some more trucks? There's a Raptor, but there's no trucks. There's just the Raptor.
That's
Right.
true.
That'd be fun.
That's
Dodge
true.
Ram would be nice.
The T-Rex.
They're cheap again.
Are we going to see a Rolls? Are we going to see a
see a Rolls?
Panini?
A panini.
Bugatti! Look them up. Go on Google Images.
That
You'll
sounds
never
like
forget
spaghetti.
it.
Are we going to see spaghetti cars?
They're Italian.
Oh, one of them spaghetti cars.
Ugh.
If you'd like to just listen to our golden voices talk about cars a lot, we are available as a regular podcast. You can catch us on all your typical podcast apps and such and so on. Thank you guys once again, and I will see you guys later. Subscribe to us if you're not subscribed already. If you are subscribed, we love you.